Arcanium 11, the Enchantress. Arcanium 11 pictures a chastely dressed young girl. With little effort, she closes the mouth of a raging lion. She wears a crown surmounted by a vase and an eagle. A line of trees decorates the bottom of the card below the heavy black line. Symbolism and philosophy. This marks the fourth time we have met the divine soul in the tarot. First in Arcania 2 and 3, then in Arcanium 6, and now in Arcanium 11. In a sense, Arcanium 11 carries forward part of the symbolism of Arcanium 6, in that it too portrays the divine soul and the animal soul together. Arcanium 6 shows the animal soul as a woman, while 11 pictures her as a lion. The idea of strength and force have been traditionally associated with Arcanium 11. The two figures pictured herein illustrates well the two types of force, animal and divine. The lion symbolizes that brute strength so typical of the king of beasts, which every man uses before the blindfold is removed from his eyes. He lives by the law of the jungle, the law of claw and fang. When the light of heaven dawns, however, he begins to realize that, with the help of God, he must harness his brute force to serve the purposes of the spirit. Slowly he becomes aware of a higher law, the law of love. As he pays more and more heed to the enchanting voice of his divine soul, the warmth of her affection gradually thaws out the icy coldness so natural to his unregenerated heart. It begins to melt down the frosty barriers of selfishness, envy, greed, lust, hate, and all the other bestial traits so characteristic of the animal soul. The magic of God's love enables us to close, with little physical effort, the mouth of the leonine passions of our own animal nature. And miracle of miracles, we begin to notice that the animalism of our friends, relatives, and associates have also lessened its ferocity. We discover to our amazement that by overcoming our own self-love, the godly love that now fills us overflows and brings out the best in others. This card shows a vase and an eagle perched atop the headdress of the woman. The vase symbolizes a chalice, which in turn typifies the heart. When it opens wide the doors to God's love, that love changes the direction of the heart's natural instincts, which are deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. The heart then soars high on eagle's wings to the light of the spiritual sun and returns to earth to spread wide its blessings. As Dr. DeCoeur says, in an outward sense, Arcanium 11 indicates the power that true love generates for the benefit of all. For it is the feminine side of life, by its apparent helplessness, that ennobles the otherwise aggressive male instincts by teaching self-restraint and sacrifice. As criminals have broken down at the mention of their mother, so the divine soul, awakened, strengthens, and made active by the Christic Spirit, transforms man's beastly proclivities and brings forth into prominence his ever latent but essential godhood. The placement of the characters in this card above the heavy black line indicates that the action takes place beyond or interior to the realm of the physical plane, symbolized by the trees at the bottom. It transpires first in the secret chambers of the heart, then works its way into the outer life. Astrology. Arcanium 11 corresponds to the planet Neptune, ruler of the sign Pisces. It signifies idealism, visions, delusions, exaltation, the utopian urge. Human anatomy. Arcanium 11, like Arcanium 10, indicates subjective processes. It refers to the pineal gland, or third eye. It signifies either a high degree of imagination, exalted visions of truth, or hallucinations, delusions, longing for drugs, drink, and secret vices of all kinds. Masonic ritual. Arcanium 11 corresponds to the heroine of Jericho Degree, based on the story of Rahab, the harlot, described in the book of Joshua as follows. Joshua, the son of Nun, sent out of Shittim 2 men to spy secretly, saying, Go view the land, even Jericho. And they went, and came into the harlot's house named Rahab, and lounged there. And it was told the king of Jericho, saying, Behold, there came men in hither tonight of the children of Israel to search out the country. And the king of Jericho sent unto Rahab, saying, Bring forth the men that are come to thee, which are entered into thine house, for they be come to search out all the country. And the woman took the 2 men and hid them, and said thus, There came men to me, but I wist not whence they were. And it came to pass about the time of shutting of the gate, when it was dark, that the men went out. Whither the men went I wot not. Pursue after them quickly, for ye shall overtake them. But she had brought them up to the roof of the house, and hid them with the stalks of flax, which she had laid in order upon the roof. And before they were laid down, she came up unto them upon the roof. And she said unto the men, I know that the Lord hath given you the land, and that your terror is fallen upon us, and that all the inhabitants of the land faint because of you. For we have heard how the Lord dried up the water of the Red Sea for you, when ye came out of Egypt, and what ye did unto the 2 kings of the Amorites, that were on the other side of Jordan, Sihon and Og, whom ye utterly destroyed. Joshua chapter 2, verses 1 through 10. This rather sordid story illustrates the dual nature of the planet Neptune, to which Arcanium 11 corresponds. Neptune governs treason, spies, harlots, lies, secrets, drink and drugs on its lower side, spiritual force, love, and the power to keep silent on its higher. Mystically, the spies in this allegory represent the rebel spirits of men who left their royal heavenly estate and came to the brothel called earth. Rahab, the harlot, typifying Mother Nature, lets them down by a cord through the window from the wall which divides the winter signs from the summer signs. Joshua chapter 2, verse 15. Rahab, or Mother Nature, covers the spirits of men with the stalks of fleshy form. From that flax will eventually be woven the white linen robe of God's righteousness, a purified spiritual body. Then Rahab says to the spies, Now therefore I pray you, swear unto me by the Lord, since I have showed you kindness, that ye will also show kindness unto my father's house. And give me a true token, and that ye will save alive my father, and my mother, and my brethren, and my sisters, and all that they have, and deliver our lives from death. Joshua chapter 2, verses 12 and 13. The birth of the human spirit into this world takes place in the secrecy and silence of the womb. And when, through the rebirth, the Lord gives us dominion over the land of the animal soul, we verily treat kindly the family of our natural powers, but utilizing them in the service of our spiritual king. The ancient ritual dramatizes the message of Arcanium 11 by bringing into the lodge the wife of a royal arch-mason who, together with the candidate, reenact the dialogue between Rahab and the spies. Mention is made of the scarlet thread or cord, and the sign of a red handkerchief is also used. These refer to the bloodline that runs from generation to generation. The power of true love is symbolized in the ritual by the man placing his right foot inside the lady's foot, his toe to her heel, denoting mutual understanding. Then they put their right hands on each other's shoulders, signifying mutual aid. The 3 days Rahab advised the spies to flee to the mountain of faith refers to the 3 planes of being, body, soul, and spirit. These they must conquer before they can consider themselves safe from the pursuit of animal lust. Joshua chapter 2, verse 16. The Bible. The story of Samson, an allegory of the sun, tells the message of Arcanium 11. Samson was a Nazarite, or son of purity, his mother having been commanded not to eat of anything that cometh of the vine, neither let her drink wine or strong drink, nor eat any unclean thing. Judges chapter 13, verse 14. Being pure as sunlight in his conception and birth, Samson represents the male counterpart of Arcanium 11. For, like the woman shown in this card, he slew a lion with nothing but his hands, rending it in twain, and later taking honey from its carcass. The sign Leo is the house of the sun, the place of his greatest power, while honey symbolizes spiritual nourishment. Samson is thus portrayed as taking his nourishment from the home of light, and overcoming his animal nature by the power of heaven. He built up his spiritual strength on the foundation of his erstwhile leonine passions. In other words, the drives of his animal nature served him instead of enslaving him. So long as Samson remained pure, his strength was boundless. But when he fell into the winter or material signs, we read, "And the lords of the Palestines came up unto her, and said unto her, Entice him, and see wherein his great strength lieth, and by what means we may prevail against him, that we may bind him to afflict him, and we will give thee every one of us 1,100 pieces of silver." Judges chapter 16, verse 5. 3 times Samson was bound, and broke his bonds as fast as they were applied. This tells us that the power of spiritual love protects the pure in heart on the 3 planes of being. The secret of Samson's great strength lay in his hair. Hair is adornment, and therefore comes under the rulership of Venus, the goddess of love. It is also symbolic of sexual virility, which, when harnessed to the creative powers of the mind, can be the oil that feeds the flame of spirit. Samson, dedicated to God since birth, was capable of using spiritual force on any plane, but Delilah, the harlot, shaved off his rays of power. Having cut him off from the pure love which was his strength, she passed him into the hands of his enemies. They bound his body in fetters of brass, and extinguished his spiritual light, and forced him to grind in the prison house as they worshiped their fish god Dagon. Daniel chapter 6 verse 22 gives another version of Arcanium 11 in the story of Daniel in the lion's den. "My God hath sent his angel, and hath shut the lion's mouth." The book of Ruth conceals the mystery of this Arcanium. The 2nd chapter verse 10 tells us that Ruth was a stranger in a strange land. Another rendition of the prodigal son parable. Truly the divine soul is an outcast from her real home with the heavenly Father. "Thou hast left thy father, and thy mother, and the land of thy nativity, and art come unto a people which thou knewest not heretofore." Chapter 2, verse 11. As strength is one of the qualities of Arcanium 11, and as love is so characteristic of the divine soul, how significant that Ruth's love for Boaz ultimately unites her with him who serves as a type of the Spirit. Spiritual force, one of the key words for Arcanium 11, shows up in the work of the 11 apostles after the betrayal of Judas. Judas, a type of human self-will, carries the sting of spiritual death. When rebellion finally dies out, it releases the power of love cradled in the divine soul. That love then creates a new life that takes the place of the old, with sometimes miraculous results. Note the significant aspects of the planet Neptune, allocated to Arcanium 11, in the underlined words found in the record of the speaking in tongues phenomenon at Pentecost. A great many mocked and said, "These men are full of new wine." But Peter, standing up with the 11, lifted up his voice and said unto them, "Ye men of Judea, and all ye that dwell at Jerusalem, be this known unto you, and hearken to my words. For these are not drunken, as ye suppose, seeing it is but the 3rd hour of the day. But this is that which was spoken by the prophet Joel. And it shall come to pass in the last days, saith God, I will pour out of my Spirit upon all flesh, and your sons and your daughters shall prophesy, and your young men shall see visions, and your old men shall dream dreams. And on my servants and on my handmaidens I will pour out in those days of my Spirit. Acts chapter 2, verses 13 through 18. Aphorism. Remember then, son of earth, that true spiritual power comes from love born of faith, that faith which is your real source of strength, gained by experience along the overcoming path of the royal road. Keywords and correspondences. Arcanium 11. Reference page 124 of the Royal Road.